One of the most prominent areas of feedback revolves around the game's graphics. There's a recurring sentiment that, despite being a sequel, Endzone 2's visuals don't measure up to its predecessor. Some are finding the graphics to be noticeably worse, even pixelated, and a step back from the original. This is a significant point of criticism, as visuals contribute heavily to immersion. Contrasting this are voices that claim to see a marked improvement in the visuals, detailing more intricate details in the destroyed world, livelier landscapes, and more detailed settlements. These contrasting opinions suggest that the visual experience is not uniform across all players, potentially due to varying system configurations or differing aesthetic preferences. There's also a comparison to other titles like new Cycle and Manor Lords, highlighting how they've implemented more interactive and visually engaging building processes, suggesting that the same level of care could be applied to Endzone 2. The gameplay experience, especially early on, seems to be a major source of frustration for some. The tutorial, a critical introduction to a game, is reportedly broken in some cases, preventing players from progressing. This highlights a need for more polish and rigorous testing to ensure a smooth initial experience. The game's UI also faces criticism, described as clunky and difficult to navigate, which can hinder the overall enjoyment and accessibility. Another significant issue pointed out is the initial resource management. Roads requiring tools for construction impedes the logical layout of settlements from the very beginning. This introduces an unwelcome, chaotic feeling right at the start. Some find that settlement building mechanics lack interactivity, feeling flat and repetitive, with just one figure seemingly hammering the air. However, there are also players who find the core gameplay loop to be engaging and fun. They highlight the sheer number of tasks and missions that keep gameplay fresh. There's also appreciation for the game's depth, with lots of controls and options to customize the experience to suit many preferences. Some find the balance between survival and expanding the settlement well executed. The introduction of new mechanics is also generating a mixed response. The expanded economic system, requiring players to handle new, sometimes hazardous resources, is seen as a positive evolution. The need to manage the well-being and morale of settlers adds a welcomed element of complexity and strategic depth to the game. These aspects are considered to add depth and encourage thoughtful gameplay. Some have even noted that the systems feel polished and engaging, indicating a step forward in core gameplay elements. The relationship system between settlers is appreciated as a feature that forces to make every decision count. The fact that Endzone 2 is in early access is a recurring theme in player commentary. There's a divide in how players approach the game's current state. Some are more forgiving, recognizing that the game is under development and that many features may be incomplete. They expect missing features and bugs and see the potential of the game as something to look forward to. These players recognize that comparing an early access title to a finished game is unfair. Others, on the other hand, feel that certain aspects are unacceptable even for early access, particularly basic elements like the tutorial functionality. They feel there are fundamental flaws that should have been addressed from the start. The impact of negative reviews on independent developers is also mentioned. It's stressed that constructive criticism via developer forums and channels would be much more effective than negative reviews, as these reviews can significantly damage the game's chances of development through hindering sales. This suggests a genuine desire from some players to see the game succeed. Despite some shortcomings, some find the game's atmosphere and immersion to be one of its strongest qualities. The dystopian setting, the details of the ruined world, and the evolving landscape, from desolate deserts to areas reclaimed by nature, contributes to a compelling overall experience. There's an appreciation for the dynamic weather and day-night cycle that enhances the feeling of immersion. The way the world evolves, even on a smaller world map, is found to be engaging to those who appreciate the game's design. Endzone 2, in its current early access state, is generating widely differing feedback. While some are frustrated by visual shortcomings, bugs, and clunky mechanics, others see the potential for a great sequel. The expanded economic system, complex settler relationships, and improved visual immersion appeal to a segment of the player base. The key takeaway seems to be that the game is still in active development and that the final product may be very different from its current state. It is clear that there is a dedicated community that has a vested interest in seeing the game succeed. The overall consensus is that the game has great potential but needs further development and polishing in order to reach its potential,